It was a busy Tuesday afternoon when Jordan Matthews, CEO of the luxury hotel chain Grande Vista, walked into his flagship property in downtown Portland. He had been hearing troubling reports from customers and even employees about the state of the hotel. Complaints about cleanliness, poor service, and unprofessional behavior were coming in more frequently, and Jordan was determined to see for himself. Grande Vista had always prided itself on offering impeccable service and a luxurious experience. The hotel had a loyal clientele, and many of the guests were repeat visitors, but the feedback had been worrying enough to prompt Jordan to take matters into his own hands. Disguised as a regular guest, Jordan dressed casually in a simple jacket, jeans, and a baseball cap, hoping not to draw attention to himself. He walked through the grand entrance of the hotel, past the marble floors and glittering chandeliers, and approached the front desk. The receptionist, a young woman named Carla, greeted him with a professional but distant smile. "I'd like to book a room for the night," Jordan said, keeping his voice neutral. "Just for one." Carla's smile faltered as she looked at the computer screen. She seemed to be typing something in, but then paused. Jordan could feel her eyes scanning him, as if trying to assess something. There was a brief, uncomfortable silence before Carla finally spoke again. "I'm sorry, sir," she said, her tone becoming curt. "We don't have any rooms available for you at the moment." Jordan was taken aback. The hotel was large and usually had plenty of vacant rooms, especially during the early afternoon. He raised an eyebrow. "I'm sorry, but I'm pretty sure you've got availability." "I'm willing to pay the standard rate for a room," he replied, his curiosity piqued. "Could you check again?" Carla hesitated, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. She looked at him again, her eyes narrowed. "I'm sorry, but it's not about availability," she said slowly, her voice suddenly colder. "We just can't accommodate you." Jordan's heart sank. This wasn't the response he was expecting. He had worked hard to make Grande Vista a brand known for welcoming everyone, regardless of who they were. Something was clearly off. Was it a mistake? Or was there something more going on behind the scenes? Jordan couldn't quite believe what he was hearing. It was unthinkable. "I don't understand," he said, trying to remain calm. "Why can't you accommodate me? I'm willing to pay." Carla's expression became even more uneasy. She glanced over her shoulder briefly, as if checking for someone else, before returning her gaze to Jordan. "I really shouldn't say anything," she muttered almost apologetically, but then her tone hardened again. "We have a policy here, sir, and I'm afraid you don't meet the criteria." Jordan felt a sense of dread settle in his stomach. The words policy and criteria rang in his ears, and he couldn't help but feel a sinking feeling that there was more to this story than simple availability. "Could you explain this policy to me?" Jordan asked, trying to keep his voice level, but his mind was already racing. He was a CEO. He had built this hotel empire, and here he was being denied a room by his own staff for reasons he didn't understand. Something was clearly wrong. Carla bit her lip, looking uncomfortable. "I can't really get into it, sir, but it's out of my hands. It's the higher-ups who enforce it." She paused. "You're not one of our usual guests." Jordan frowned. He had been a guest at this hotel many times, though he had never been in this exact position before. He knew that the hotel had long catered to a wealthy clientele, and it was known for its exclusivity. But he wasn't a stranger to this place. "Can you tell me who's in charge?" he asked, hoping to get some clarity. "Maybe I can speak to someone higher up." Carla looked hesitant but eventually pointed to the back office. "You could speak with Carla in management, but honestly, I don't think there's much she'll be able to do. The decision comes from corporate." Jordan's stomach twisted. This was getting worse by the minute. He had been expecting minor issues, maybe a slip in service or a neglected room, but not this level of exclusion. What had gone wrong? And why was he being treated like an outsider in his own hotel? Jordan knew he couldn't let this go without understanding the full scope of what was happening. He had to see who was in charge and why this was happening in his hotel. He walked to the back office and knocked on the door. A middle-aged woman with short blonde hair looked up from her desk. Her nameplate read, "Carla Fitzgerald, Hotel Manager." "Yes?" Carla asked, not recognizing Jordan, though she gave him a polite smile. She seemed slightly frazzled, dealing with paperwork in the cluttered office. I was just speaking with the front desk about a room, Jordan said, keeping his voice even. I'm being told there's no availability, but I'd like to discuss the situation. Carla raised an eyebrow, clearly skeptical. Are you sure? Because we've been fully booked for weeks now. If you were looking for a high-end suite or something, I'm afraid those are already reserved. Jordan shook his head. I don't need a luxury suite. I just need a room for the night. I'm willing to pay, like any other guest. Carla hesitated. It's not that simple, sir. I can't give you a room without confirming your status in our system. You're not on our VIP guest list, and frankly, we don't have room for someone like you. Jordan's confusion deepened. Someone like me? He repeated, trying to keep his composure. Carla avoided his gaze, her voice dropping lower. It's the company's policy. No exceptions. The words hit Jordan like a punch to the gut. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. You're refusing to give me a room because I'm not a VIP? He asked, trying to wrap his mind around it. Carla's silence was telling. She didn't need to say more. It was clear now. Grande Vista had turned into a hotel catering primarily to high-paying, exclusive clients, leaving behind the regular customers who once made up the heart of its business. This VIP list wasn't a perk. It was a way to discriminate. Jordan felt an overwhelming sense of disbelief. How had his hotel, his pride and joy, turned into a place that had lost sight of its values? He thought about the employees, the loyal guests, and the ideals he had founded the brand on. Grande Vista was supposed to be a place that offered luxury, yes, but also accessibility, comfort, and a welcoming atmosphere for everyone. He stepped back from the desk, his mind racing. This wasn't just a simple issue of management. It was a cultural failure at the highest level. Someone, somewhere along the way, had decided that only a select few deserved to stay at Grande Vista. And now, as CEO, he had to face the consequences of his own decisions. He knew what he had to do next. But first, he needed answers. The hotel's corporate policies were clearly out of control, and he had to get to the bottom of it. He couldn't just sweep this under the rug. I need to talk to someone in corporate, Jordan said firmly. This needs to be addressed immediately. Carla hesitated but nodded, still looking uncomfortable. I'll make a call, she said, though it was clear she wasn't happy about it. Jordan stood there waiting for the phone call, knowing that his business was at a crossroads. Later that evening, Jordan sat down in the hotel's lobby, reflecting on what had just transpired. He was furious, but he was also determined to fix the issue. Grande Vista needed to be restored to what it was always meant to be, a place where all guests, not just the elite, were welcomed with open arms. When the corporate representative arrived, Jordan didn't mince words. This hotel was built on the principle that we serve everyone, no matter who they are. I've just witnessed firsthand the exclusion of regular customers in favor of a VIP list. That's not the kind of hotel I want to run. He demanded immediate action, an overhaul of the hotel's policies, a review of the VIP program, and most importantly, an apology to the guests who had been excluded unfairly. The changes were implemented quickly, and within weeks, Grande Vista saw a dramatic shift. The VIP list was overhauled, and the hotel's commitment to welcoming all guests was restored. The employees, too, felt the change in the air, as morale lifted and the hotel regained its sense of purpose. As for Jordan, he learned an invaluable lesson that day. No matter how big or successful a company became, it was crucial to remember the values that had driven its success in the first place. Grande Vista was more than just a luxury brand. It was a place where all guests deserved to feel welcome. And Jordan was going to make sure that never changed again.